Ever feel like your brain is just, I don't know, a hamster on a wheel, just constantly churning through decisions?
Oh, absolutely.
From the moment that first alarm goes off, maybe you hit snooze, maybe you don't. Then navigating work stuff, big projects.
Yeah.
And then even just like, what are we watching tonight? It's relentless. We're just bombarded.
It really is.
And then you get stuck in that loop.
Right.
Second guessing. Oh, should I have done this? Maybe that. Analysis paralysis. If that sounds familiar to you listening, you are definitely in the right place.
It's so true. And that sheer volume, it can be genuinely exhausting. I mean, our brains are incredibly free, but they do have limits.
Right.
And making too many decisions one after another, it leads to this thing called decision fatigue. And the quality of our choices actually goes down.
Yeah, I felt that.
But what if we could handle this constant stream of choices with, more clarity, less stress, and actually feel more confident about them?
That is exactly what we're trying to do in this deep dive. We're going to unpack the really fascinating science and the practical strategies behind making better decisions.
Mm-hmm.
We've gathered insights from, all over behavioral science research, leadership ideas, even a bit of evolutionary psychology.
A great mix.
Our mission here is to explore how habits sort of unconsciously shape our choices, the surprising role, sometimes tricky role, of intuition and emotions.
Yeah, that tricky part is key.
And how your core values can act as this really powerful internal compass. So by the end, hopefully you'll walk away with some genuinely actionable knowledge. Ready to jump in.
Let's do it. Okay, so first concept. And this one might actually surprise you a bit.
Yeah.
A huge chunk of the choices we make every day, they aren't really conscious decisions.
Really?
Yeah, they're more like habitual responses. Think of them as mental shortcuts. They guide almost half of what we do, day in, day out. Often we don't even notice.
Wow, half.
Our brains are basically wired for efficiency, and habits. They are the ultimate efficiency hack.
Okay, so it's like our brains are running on autopilot a lot, which I guess makes sense given everything we have to process.
Exactly.
And that brings us to this habit loop idea. How does that actually work?
Right. It's simple, but incredibly powerful. It's a cycle. A cue triggers a behavior, which then gives you a reward. And that reward reinforces the original cue.
Okay.
It's like a little feedback loop in your brain. So imagine you walk into the kitchen, you see your coffee maker. That's the cue.
Right. My morning cue.
You automatically start making coffee.
Yep.
That's the behavior. And then you get that delicious brew, that caffeine kick.
Okay.
That's the reward.
The blessed reward.
And that good feeling makes you want to do it all again tomorrow. The whole loop gets stronger.
And this loop, this is key to beating that decision fatigue we talked about, right?
Absolutely.
Because if you're making like brilliant focused decisions all day at work.
Using up all that mental energy.
Yeah. You come home and suddenly you find yourself, I don't know, grabbing junk food or maybe snapping at someone just because your decision-making tank is empty.
Totally.
Yeah.
Your reserves are depleted. So the research points to a solution called pre-deciding.
Pre-deciding.
It's about making a decision now about what you'll do later, before you're even in that situation, that moment of choice.
Okay, I like that.
And the formula is actually wonderfully simple. It's just, when faced with, I have pre-decided to blank.
When faced with blank, I have pre-decided to blank. That sounds almost too simple, but the power's in the automation. Is that it?
That's exactly it.
So instead of like fighting the urge for cookies on the counter,
Right.
You've already decided, when faced with cookies, I have pre-decided to grab an apple instead. You just take the decision out of the heat of the moment.
Precisely. You automate the choice. It saves so much mental energy, saves time. And what's really interesting here is how having clearly defined personal values makes these pre-decisions almost, easy.
How so?
If you know what truly matters to you, maybe it's health, maybe it's family time, maybe professional integrity, your choices just flow more naturally from those core beliefs. That's like having an internal GPS for your decisions.
An internal GPS. I like that metaphor. So, okay, how do we actually build these habits, these better choice habits? Sounds like it takes more than just gritting your teeth and using willpower.
Oh, it absolutely does. Willpower is it's fickle. Dr. B.J. Fogg, he's a behavioral scientist over at Stanford. He has this brilliant analogy. He says habits are like plants.
Okay, plants.
Yeah. To grow one successfully, you need 3 key things. First, start tiny.
Tiny.
Really tiny. Focus on a super small behavior that's like an on-ramp to the bigger thing you want to do. So instead of, I'm going to exercise for an hour every day.
Which sounds exhausting just saying it.
Right. It's, I'll put on my workout shoes.
Oh.
That's it. That tiny win makes the next step feel way less daunting.
Okay, start tiny. What's next?
Second, you choose the right environment.
Setting yourself up for success.
Exactly. Make it easy. This is about attaching your new tiny habit to an existing routine you already have down pat. That's called an anchor behavior. And the context, the place, the time, it really matters.
Give me an example.
Sure. So if you want to say floss more, put the floss right next to your toothbrush.
Okay. Obvious cue.
Or if you want to write more, maybe put your laptop right by your breakfast spot. You see it first thing. You're basically leveraging what you already do automatically.
Makes sense. And the third step for our habit plan.
The third step is to help establish the roots.
Okay. Nurturing it.
Exactly. This means practice, repetition, but crucially, you need to nourish it with positive emotions or rewards. And it doesn't have to be huge.
Like what?
A simple internal, yes, I did it. Or, yay, me. Crossing something off a list feels good. Telling a friend you did it. A little bit of positive reinforcement, that dopamine hit, it helps cement the habit, makes your brain want to repeat it.
Right, because it felt good. It's important to remember, though, this stuff takes time, doesn't it? Habits build slowly.
Oh, definitely not overnight. Research suggests something like 60 days, maybe a bit more, for a simple health habit to become automatic. Like, say, consistently eating fruit with breakfast.
60 days. Okay, that's a commitment.
It is. But the flip side is, old habits, those memories, they also decay slowly. So if you fall off the wagon, rebuilding a habit you once had can actually be a bit easier. That pathway in your brain is still kind of there.
That's encouraging.
Consistency is really the name of the game, and enjoyment helps hugely. If you can find a way to make the habit feel good or fun, you're much more likely to stick with it. And keep it simple. Complexity is the enemy of habit.
And don't forget the environment, right? Setting up those cues for the good habits, running shoes by the door, and making the bad habits harder, like maybe freezing the cookies, or I've heard turning your phone to grayscale makes it less addictive.
Yeah, that's a great one. It really works. You're basically doing personal choice architecture. You make the good choice the easy, obvious one, and the bad choice requires more effort.
Okay, choice architecture. I like it. So that's the habit side. But you mentioned intuition earlier. Trusting your gut? That sounds a bit mystical.
Yeah, it can sound that way, can it? But it's actually much more scientific than you might think.
Really?
Yeah. Your brain is like constantly recognizing patterns, connecting stuff from your past experiences, processing information subconsciously, all to help you make a good call, especially in complex situations.
So it's not just a random feeling.
Not at all. It's highly efficient pattern recognition. Your brain's crunching massive amounts of data you've stored away over your lifetime, often without you even being aware of it.
Okay, wow. So my gut might actually know something. But emotions, they feel like a whole different ballgame. You called them a double-edged sword.
They absolutely are. Research is really clear on this. Emotions powerfully, predictably, and pervasively influence decision-making. Sometimes they help. Sometimes they really, really hinder.
Harmful or beneficial? Okay.
The challenge is figuring out which is which in the moment, because emotions can seriously mislead us. Often, this shows up as cognitive biases.
Cognitive biases, those mental shortcuts that go wrong, like systematic errors in how we think.
Exactly. Our brains filter information, but sometimes they filter it wrongly, based on our own experiences, our preferences.
Give us an example.
Okay, a classic one is confirmation bias. It's not just liking information that agrees with you.
No.
It's that you actively look for stuff that proves you right, and you subconsciously ignore or downplay anything that challenges your existing beliefs. That's why, two people can see the same news report and come away totally convinced of opposite things.
Right. Or what about status quo biases, just sticking with what you know?
Yeah, preferring the familiar even when a new option is objectively better. The whole better the devil you know thing.
And anchoring biases, where the first thing you hear just sticks.
Precisely. That first piece of info carries way too much weight. Like seeing a super high original price on something that's on sale. Suddenly, the sale price looks amazing, even if it's, still not cheap. The anchor skewed your perception of value.
Okay. So our emotions can really mess with our perception. You mentioned a negative mood making us more pessimistic.
Yeah, studies show that if you're in a bad mood, you might overestimate the chances of negative outcomes, like fatalities in an accident scenario, for instance. Your emotions are literally coloring your judgment. They can sort of lie to you.
So how do we stop them? How do we guard against these unwanted emotional influences? Do we just try to suppress them, like push them down?
That's often our first instinct, right? Just don't feel that way. But the research suggests suppression is actually often counterproductive.
How come?
Well, trying to bottle up an emotion can sometimes make it even stronger. Plus, it takes a lot of mental energy, it's cognitively costly, and it can even mess with your memory of the situation.
Okay, so suppression is out. What works better?
The strategy that seems superior is called reappraisal.
Reappraisal.
It means actively reframing the meaning of whatever triggered the emotion. You consciously change your perspective on it.
Okay, so like, instead of stressing about a bad grade, you tell yourself, okay, it's just a test, it's feedback, it's a chance to learn.
Exactly. Or maybe seeing a layoff not just as a disaster, but as potentially an opportunity.
Yeah.
A chance to pursue something new.
Right.
Reappraisal actually reduces the negative feeling itself and even the physical stress response. It's a really powerful tool.
That does sound powerful. What else? You mentioned time delay.
Yeah, simple idea. Emotions tend to be short-lived, so just wait. Let it pass before deciding.
Sounds easy.
But it's hard in practice because strong emotions often scream for an immediate reaction. Waiting feels almost impossible sometimes.
Yeah, true. Okay, what about this dual emotion solution? That sounds intriguing.
It is pretty cool. It's the idea of intentionally inducing a different counteracting emotion.
Like fighting fire with fire or fire with water.
Maybe fire with water. So, for example, research found that feeling gratitude can actually reduce the financial impatience that sadness sometimes causes.
Wow. So you feel sad, maybe you want to splurge, but then you focus on gratitude and it balances you out.
Kind of, yeah. It's like using one emotion to gently nudge your decision-making back towards a more rational place when another emotion is pulling you off course.
That's fascinating. And speaking of nudging, that connects back to choice architecture, right? Setting up good defaults.
Exactly. Arranging the environment to nudge people toward better choices. This is especially useful when strong emotions might be reducing how deeply people are thinking things through.
Like the healthy food options first in the cafeteria line.
Perfect example. Or automatic enrollment in things like 401k retirement plans. It makes the beneficial choice the default, the path of least resistance. We're just influenced by our surroundings and how options are framed, way more than we like to think.
Okay. And emotions aren't just internal, right? They affect our interactions.
Absolutely. They're a communication system. Our emotional expressions help others understand us, and they influence how others behave towards us. Think about negotiations showing anger. Sometimes can actually prompt the other side to make concessions. It signals your limits.
Right. So emotions are complex. They're internal, external, sometimes helpful, sometimes not. What about when we're stressed or tired or distracted? Does all this strategy just fly out the window?
Well, that's precisely when our conscious, active control part of the brain, the part doing all this reappraisal and strategizing, gets overloaded. And what happens then? We revert to autopilot. We fall back on our existing habits. The good ones, hopefully, but also the bad ones.
So that's why building good habits is so critical.
Exactly. It's an evolutionary thing, really. When you're under pressure or cognitive load, it's often safer to react automatically based on past patterns than to freeze up trying to analyze everything perfectly.
Yeah.
So robust, positive habits become your reliable default when your higher brain functions are, busy or tired.
Okay, this is all making so much sense. We've covered habits for automation, handling emotions, and intuition. But now let's get to what feels like the deepest level, our values. How do our core values act as that internal compass you mentioned?
Right. So your personal values, they're these abstract beliefs that act as guiding principles in your life. Think of them like psychological currency.
Psychological currency?
Yeah, they help you weigh things up, compare different ideas or goals. And when a value is activated, it triggers an emotional response that directly guides your decisions. Often, this happens without you even consciously realizing it.
Wow.
And interestingly, research even suggests there's a heritable component. Aspects of your personality related to values might actually be passed down.
So they're not just things we think are important, they're deeper than that. Maybe even partly genetic.
The evidence points that way, yeah.
Yep.
It's fascinating. Consider a framework like Schwartz's values circle. It maps out 10 core values, things like security, achievement, universalism, hedonism. And it arranges them around two main axes. One goes from conservation, valuing tradition, conformity, security, to openness, to change, valuing stimulation, self-direction.
Okay. Stability versus exploration, kind of.
Exactly. And the other axis goes from self-enhancement valuing power, achievement, hedonism, to self-transcendence valuing universalism, benevolence.
So focusing on yourself versus focusing on others or the bigger picture.
Precisely. And the key thing is values that are next to each other on the circle tend to support similar needs and goals. Values that are opposite each other, they often conflict. It's like a map of our underlying motivations.
Can you give a real-world example? How does this actually influence a decision I might make?
Sure. Let's take buying fair trade goods.
Yep.
One study found that how strongly people valued universalism, that's about tolerance, protecting people, nature directly correlated with their likelihood of choosing fair trade products.
Okay, that makes sense.
Now, someone who scores higher on conservation values, like tradition or security, might stick with familiar brands or prioritize cost savings. Whereas someone high on openness to change might be more likely to try a new, perhaps ethically sourced brand just for the novelty. It really filters down into everyday choices, from big life decisions to, even the coffee you buy.
Wow. It influences everything. And you mentioned an evolutionary angle, connecting this to Maslow's hierarchy.
Right. There's a compelling theory that these value systems evolved kind of sequentially, mirroring Maslow's hierarchy of needs, driven by what helped us adapt and survive. We can roughly group people into 4 strategic types based on their dominant values.
Okay, what are they?
First, you have the conservative values, linked to what the researchers called shepherds. These values are about stability, continuity, resisting disruption. Think safety, belonging lower down on Maslow's pyramid. These folks tend to be the most risk-averse.
Shepherds. Okay, then what?
Then come the self-enhancing competitive values, the hunters. These values drive change aimed at improving one's own standing or resources aligning with Maslow's esteem needs. They're more willing to take calculated risks if the potential personal payoff looks good.
Hunters. Got it. Next.
Openness to change progressive values, the explorers. These guys promote risk-taking, but more in the sense of research and development seeking fun, novelty, adventure. This aligns with Maslow's self-actualizing values like playfulness, creativity. They tend to be the least risk-averse.
Explorers. I like that.
The last one.
Finally, self-transcending values, linked to philosophers. These values are about accelerating knowledge sharing, cooperation, universal understanding. Think Maslow's higher self-actualization needs, self-direction, universalism, benevolence. Interestingly, these individuals often score higher on intelligence and creativity, and were found to be less sensitive to potential losses in decision-making tasks. Shepherds, hunters, explorers, philosophers. That's quite a framework. But what if you don't fit neatly into one box? What if your values clash? The research mentioned moderators. Does that mean you're just stuck?
Not stuck, no. But moderators describes a type where no single value set really dominates. So yes, this can lead to internal values conflicts. You might feel pulled in different directions.
It sounds stressful.
It can be. But here's a fascinating paradox, a really cool insight from the research. That very conflict, that internal friction, it can actually trigger more rational, deliberate thinking.
Wait, conflict leads to better decisions?
Sometimes, yes. Instead of just going with your gut feeling, which might be conflicted anyway, the internal inconsistency prompts you to engage your system two, brain your slower, analytical, more logical thinking. That feeling of, something's not quite right here, can actually make you pause and analyze more carefully.
Wow, that is totally counterintuitive. Conflict leading to clarity, it really underscores how much our values shape things, doesn't it? Even tiny biases, if they're consistent.
Absolutely. They can have huge impacts when you look at systemic interactions. The research highlights this from our individual choices adding up to wider societal trends. Think about big collective decisions, like that UK referendum example. Relatively small margins, but driven by underlying value differences across the population.
Right.
And organizational cultures can amplify these effects too, especially if leaders consciously or unconsciously promote values similar to their own. Being aware of this helps you understand why certain decisions get made, both by yourself and by the groups you're part of.
Okay. So wrapping this all together, we've really dug into, 3 core pillars, it seems. Building habits to automate choices.
Freeing up mental energy.
Understanding and managing that powerful, sometimes tricky influence of intuition and emotion.
Yeah, harnessing the good, guarding against the bad.
And finally, really connecting and aligning our decisions with our deepest personal values. It really does feel like upgrading your brain's operating system for better living.
It genuinely is. When you consciously recognize how many decisions are habitual, when you learn to work with your emotions and intuition instead of just being controlled by them, and when you make an effort to connect your choices back to what truly matters to you, your core values, you cultivate a way of deciding that's more intentional, definitely more effective, and ultimately, I think, much more fulfilling.
That really lands well. Which brings us to a final provocative thought for you listening. If our values are constantly shaping our decisions, often without us even fully realizing it, what would it actually mean to live a life where every choice, big or small, genuinely reflects your deepest convictions, even when the outcome isn't clear or guaranteed? Thinking about that, what single decision might you make differently today if you consciously paused and aligned it with your core values? Something to explore.